Right before the events of Captain America Civil War, there's a lot that leads up to it if you pay attention. In the summer of 2015, after the events of Age of Ultron, Scott Lang is just getting out of prison and the events of Ant-Man occur. Scott decides that he wants to do the right thing, so he attempts to become an Avenger. He encounters Falcon, they have an exchange, and that's the end of that. Shortly after this, there are lasting effects by what Ultron did, so the world is adjusting and then the Soviet Accords are introduced. In the beginning of 2016, we get introduced to Matt Murdock, a blind lawyer who's fighting crime as a vigilante known as Daredevil in Hell's Kitchen. We're introduced to the main villain, Wilson Fisk, who's trying to control the world by corruption, power, and any means necessary. We then get our introduction to Karen Page and Foggy Nelson. They're helping Matt Murdock run a law firm so that they can stop any corruption that's going on in the city for people who can't afford it. At the end of the show, Daredevil actually takes down Wilson Fisk, he gets arrested, and he's temporarily put out of commission. Following this in Hell's Kitchen, we then get the events of Jessica Jones Season 1. Jessica Jones is a private eye detective who doesn't want to be a superhero even though she has superpowers. Both shows make reference to the incident or the Battle of New York, which took place in 2012. Season 1, we get Jessica's backstory a little bit, and then we get our introduction to Kilgrave and other core characters. We get our introduction to Luke Cage, who we know got their own season and is a defender. Jerry Hogarth, who runs a law firm that Jessica works with to get information whenever she needs help for her private eye dealings. Trish Walker, Jessica's best friend, who also becomes Hellcat, and she runs a podcast throughout the city. The show ends with Jessica Jones actually outsmarting her own villain, Kilgrave. Jessica Jones accepts herself as a hero. Partially. In the spring of 2016, we get our introduction with Peter Parker as Spider-Man. We get a video of a masked vigilante kid, what it looks like, stopping a bus going about 3,000 miles an hour. At this point, Peter Parker has attempted to be Spider-Man for about 6 months. Leading up to the Battle of Civil War, you know, the one that happened at the airport, there's a lot that goes on in New York. We start with the events of Luke Cage Season 1. Luke has just returned to Harlem after helping Jessica Jones, and he's heard about superpowered individuals, but he wants to clean up Harlem. A lot more characters were prominently introduced, like Claire Templeton or Night Nurse. She's the one that helps, bandage up all the heroes and everything when they're really messed up. And we get Misty Knight, an NYC police detective who loses her arm and becomes that special Misty Knight that we see in the comics. The main villain is Cottonmouth, who's trying to distribute guns and do gang violence and everything. There's a lot of Easter eggs in Luke Cage that point to the Battle of New York and also what happened in The Incredible Hulk, the 2008 one. Now, we're going to enter the dragon with the events of Iron Fists. We're introduced to Danny Rand and his backstory. He runs Rand Enterprises, which is similar to what Tony Stark runs with Stark Industries, and his family was unalived in a plane crash, where he crashed in the mountains and he learned how to become the immortal Iron Fist. Danny ends up getting a lot of help from Colleen Wing and a couple other people. The main villain is Madame Gao, who we learn has ties to the Hand. Danny Rand becomes Iron Fist. Pretty cool. We go on to the events of the Defenders. Now, without giving you too much, the Defender series is basically a culmination of what has been going on with Jessica Jones, Daredevil, Iron Fist, and Luke Cage. The Defenders have to come together and they have to stop the Hand. Elektra ends up getting taken out and we don't know what happens to her, and then we move on to the events of Daredevil Season 3, Jessica Jones Season 2, Iron Fist Season 2, and Luke Cage Season 2. We then fly overseas to Europe at the airport where the events of Captain America Civil War are happening, and then everything culminates from there.